So I am sure you have seen the new complaints by Richard Allen's lawyers, but how much is truth and how much is just hooey? Today we are going to look at it from a law enforcement and a medical perspective. So don't go anywhere. Well, hello, my silky friends. Yeah, it's been a crazy week, and let me start by saying some of you have sent me some wonderful information, and I promise I'm going to get to it. I've been working insane hours, so give me a little bit of time because it is so worth diving into. So today we are going to take a look at this document from Richard Allen's attorneys. Because when you first read this, you're like, oh my goodness, this is horrific. But let me explain to you why they do what they do, or is he actually being mistreated? I've got my handy dandy glasses so I can see something. Okay, let's address the first thing. It says that Mr. Allen is enclosed in a 6-foot by 10-foot cell, which is about the size of a dog kennel. That is probably true. And that he sleeps on a mat on the concrete floor. Also, probably true that he only gets approximately 2 showers per week. Probably true. So is this abuse? Well, for the normal person it is, but let's take a look into why this is happening. If you follow this channel at all, you know that I work at a jail. I work at a county jail. We house all kind of people. It is not just for small, city crimes. This is on a county-wide, and then we take other counties' prisoners as well. We have the whole gamut. Horrific murders down to the gangs and the child abusers. Then you're just run-of-the-mill, drug charges, failure to appear, and things like that. Now, why would somebody put another human being in a cage like this? Okay, let me explain that by telling you about a case that we recently had. In the county that I work in that same city where the jail is, there was a horrific murder. It involved a very small child, and the community was outraged. Okay, they very quickly found the culprit, and because of the nature of the crime, understandably, the city, the county, the whole state was outraged. Now, for his protection, he had to be moved to DOC, which is Department of Corrections. Okay, he could not be housed anywhere in our county or in neighboring counties. There was a huge risk that this man would never make it to trial. So after many months, he comes back to our facility while he is in court. Now, during this time, he was in a situation much like Mr. Allen's, and this was for his protection. Understand, there were a lot of people who wanted to unalive him. And of course, some of the inmates and the employees in that jail were family members of the people who had been unalived. He was put in an isolation cell, which is what you have to do for a lot of people if you want them to make it to trial. Yes, I know, you're innocent until proven guilty, but what good does that do you if you are not alive? I don't know how the laws are in Indiana, but in Alabama, they have to have a shower at least every 72 hours. So, that's a couple of days. Now, some inmates will get showers more often if they want them, if something happens and they become soiled or whatever. But understand that it is a huge risk to take somebody out of a holding cell and put them in the shower. I'm just going to put it out there. You have a lot of people running around, and it's not like you can spare 10 or 15 staff to stand there and watch while someone is bathing. Now, if the circumstances aren't as bad, but they are in an ISO for whatever, they may get daily showers. And a lot of times, the people in isolation really don't want to come out every day. There's like pros and cons. Is it cruel on one hand? I mean, it's not great. Let's be real. On the other hand, it is the only way to keep someone protected. Now, let's talk about his recreation time. And this is if you followed me so far, this is gonna make more sense. They usually get an hour a day out, and that is required by law. They have to be able to get out of their cell for an hour a day. Again, hypothetically, you have everybody in the jail, inmates, whatever, wanting to unalive you. The longer you are out, the more dangerous your situation becomes. I mean, let's look at Jeffrey Dahmer. And I think we would all agree on this. We want to see him go to trial. Now, I've said this over and over. I don't even know if he's guilty. I don't even know if he was involved. He may have been. I go back and forth on this. But what I do know is the man deserves a fair trial, and he's not going to get one if he is unalived in jail, okay? In that case, he's always going to be labeled as guilty, and they'll stop the whole search and they'll say, we got our man. Unfortunately, he's in prison. But is that what you want? It's not what I want. I want to know. And if he's innocent, I want him to have justice. Even though you may think it is kind of cruel, it is standard, okay? He's not being treated any worse than anybody else in his situation would be being treated. Now, if he is innocent, at this point, I'm like, I hope he's not innocent, because they have ruined this man's life, if he is. But now let's go to the medical part, okay? In part of this, it says that he has suffered in the past with depression, and now this is really pronounced, and, he may be schizophrenic. There are several mental conditions that the attorneys bring up. Only his family could answer whether he was depressed before or if he was medicated for that. But let's assume that's true. Okay, you're taking someone and putting them in a very different, and by comparison to his normal life, horrific condition. Now, this is just my observation of my patients. For example, last year we had a young girl come in, a horrific crime, and I would say for the first 7 or 8 months of her incarceration, she was very upbeat. She was very hopeful. She smiled, she talked, and she felt like she wasn't going to be charged for the worst. But as time passed and she's looked at the evidence with the attorneys, she became very depressed. Now, if you're looking at Richard Allen, kind of in the same context, in the beginning, he was able, I feel like, to be a little bit more positive. And as the paperwork says, kind of cut up and, have a sense of humor, because you really believe either A, they're going to realize I'm not guilty and I'm getting out of here, or B, they don't have enough evidence, I'm still getting out of here. Okay? In either scenario. But as time passes, now what? We're looking at about 6 months or so. Reality starts to set in. Even if he is innocent, he may, think, I might not get out of this, even though I didn't have anything to do with it. And this may be my future. Same for if he's guilty. When, potential reality sets in, it is going to trigger a lot of stuff. So to deteriorate mentally in a situation like this is really, really common. Now let's address the mat on the floor. Depending on his mental state, okay? If he is in ISO because he is depressed and they feel like he might harm himself, you wouldn't want to put them on a bench. We have one isolation room that has pads on the walls and pads on the floor. You have no idea what people will do to get out of a cell, okay? They will harm themselves, even if they're not, in that vein where they want to unalive themselves, prior to. Sometimes they think if they can harm themselves enough, they can get out and go to the hospital. Which is true, but in a case like this, really, do you want to expose him to other people in the county who may be related to Libby or Abby or the families? I mean, come on, you are quadrupling the risk that something is going to happen to him if you have to send him out. So putting someone on a mat, on the floor, especially in a place that does not have, any kind of beds or anything they can fall on, hurt themselves on, is the safest thing for him. Okay, let's look at his picture before and after. Everybody's saying he looks like a prisoner of war. Yeah, he kind of does. He has obviously lost a lot of weight. Now, let me say, first of all, according to his wife's Facebook and everything, he was well known to hang out at the local bar. That's fine. But in doing that, you consume a considerable amount of alcohol, which is very fattening. It's also very bloating, beers and stuff, y'all know. So taking alcohol out of his diet is going to automatically cause weight loss, as well as if he drank sodas and stuff like that before, he's not going to be getting that in jail. And so you're going to see some initial weight loss. Now, one thing as a nurse that I have noticed with our inmates, and I mean, this isn't true of every single person, but a high majority. If they come in with substance charges, like illegal substance charges, they are generally on the thin side. They don't eat properly. So when they get incarcerated and they are eating a regular 3 meals a day, whether it tastes good or not, they are going to usually put on weight. Some of them get a little pudgy in jail. Now, other ones who are having a lifestyle change are going to lose. I don't know how the food is, in that facility. None of them are like eating at the Cracker Barrel, okay? It's jail. Okay, let's go on to some other issues. Okay, it says that he is supervised by peers. Okay, what they are talking about is that the trustees of the jail, they are, kind of loose around. They have certain areas they can and can't be in. I know some of our isolation cells are in the booking area. And in booking, definitely the trustees are in and out because they are doing things for the jail, for the kitchen, for the car wash, sweeping and mopping and that kind of stuff. So they are out and around. Yes, do they keep an eye on the people in ISO? Unofficially, yes, because they are in and out and they know what's going on. Now, that is not always a bad thing, because if somebody is being harassed or something is going on, someone's having a medical emergency, it is often the trustee that is going to hear or see something before the corrections officer, because there are more of them. They have more eyes places. You only have a certain amount of officers. Now, there are cameras everywhere, but again, you have to be watching at that particular time. And if somebody's just saying something, that's not going to show up on the camera. And while it may make him uncomfortable, it can afford a little bit more eyes on, making sure you're okay. On the flip side of that, you have, of course, trustees that may under their breath say all kinds of hateful things. Hopefully it's not the corrections officers or the medical personnel. I mean, I'll be honest. In some cases, it's really hard to bite your tongue when somebody has done something really horrendous. But that is your job. It's part of it. Everybody should be treated the same, okay? But does it happen? Oh, yeah, I'm sure it does. And, I don't know if that is something that he is facing in there. Now, one more thing I wanted to address is it says he doesn't have contact with his family except through like a little electronic device. That is true where I am also. We call it a chirp. It is a little phone. It's like in a little protective case. It's like one of these. And his family can put money on, his books, and they can text back and forth. And he may be able to have FaceTime calls. I'm not sure how that works in Indiana. But there is no physical visitation where I am at either. But actually having this electronic device is a whole lot better than it used to be, where you would sit in jail with Zippo. It's not the same. I realize that. He misses his family. I get it. But again, that is not, punishment for him specifically. What we're looking at is he being treated differently than someone else in his position would be being treated? And I'm going to say, from what I see, no. No, he's not. Which is not to say that it is not causing him all kinds of problems being incarcerated. I don't know how well I do in jail either. I mean, who knows? I might crack up. Some wonder now. And I'm free. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to explain that to you to make you understand. Now, why would his attorneys bring this up? Because shouldn't they know, that this is not really different than anybody else? Yes, they do. But I think there's a couple of reasons why. In case he is not getting the help, mental health or whatever help that he should get. They want to bring attention to it. Mostly, I think they're working the sympathy angle. And again, this is not to say that he's guilty and they just want him to appear innocent and gain, and tug on people's heartstrings. I mean, that's their job. But I think the other reason is because they want people to have a unbiased opinion. And they want to remind people, hey, this is a real person. A real person who has not been convicted, who is suffering in this, jail system. And good, because they are doing their job. And they want to keep this process in the public eye. I feel like a good attorney would do this. So that's my take on it. I see this every single day of work, every single day. And I hope in the future, we're trying to work this out, to join a podcast with Ruckus Rocks, because we both know what we're talking about and what they're dealing with. And he has a different take on Richard Allen than I do, but it's okay. So you get to kind of hear both sides. I'll let you know when that podcast is going to come up. In the meantime, keep talking about this case. Creators, I applaud all of you that are keeping this in the public eye. Have a great week, and for heaven's sake, stay silky.